I can't kill everyone on Earth with an empty stomach.
Hi everyone, this is AJ and welcome back to the channel. And welcome to my review for episode 13 of season 2 of Resident Alien. This episode's entitled Harry the Parents. However, before I talk about this particular episode, I want to have another little discussion about me and this series. So let's get into it. Okay, yeah, so if you're new to the channel, then welcome. If you're a returning viewer, then welcome back. It's great to have you on board. Now, I do review this series on a weekly basis every time we get a new episode. So, this is nothing new. However, my enjoyment for reviewing this series is in decline.
This is some bullshit.
Not because of the series or anything like that in itself being in decline or anything of that ilk, just within myself. And I want to explore that a little bit before talking about this episode. So I hope that you'll join me with this, because I find this a very difficult series to review. I honestly, I really do. And I struggle with it. Now, obviously, I don't give you an episode breakdown. An episode breakdown would be a scene-by-scene discussion of everything that's gone on. So I don't do that. I just give an overall thoughts on the episode, what's gone on, and then we can discuss it down below. Really, this is more of a place for people to come and talk about the series and what they like, what they dislike, and this sort of thing. But me personally, I dread reviewing this on a weekly basis. Why, you ask? Well, this program isn't structured like a standard TV series. It's not. Now, a standard TV series, you'd have an A and a B storyline, which will either run separately and resolve themselves or come together by the end of the episode, the two stories. You do have an overall arcing story, which, you know, this program chooses not to work in that manner. This program is written in such a way that you have an A, B, C, D, and sometimes an E storyline. You have loads of different stories going on at once, revolving around the different individuals or the different character groups or couples within the series, and some of them intertwine, some of them don't. So this makes reviewing somewhat difficult. Add to that the fact that this program is somewhat comedic in tone. Now, I'm not good at reviewing comedy whatsoever, because what works for one in comedy and what works for another, you know, sometimes you lose in translation, all this sort of thing. So it makes it very difficult prospect of reviewing comedy. Rather than saying, yeah, it's good, it made me laugh, blah, 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 all that sort of a thing. Now, I try my best with this series, but the problem is in the way that it's structured is it's a detriment to the program itself, I believe, because inevitably, right, as a casual viewer, there's going to be characters that you like, that you dislike, that you, do you know what I mean, that sort of thing that you're ho-hum about. So thusly, in every episode, there's going to be storylines that you latch on to, that you like, and then there's going to be storylines and elements that you don't. So it just makes reviewing overall somewhat difficult. I don't know whether there is a sort of contract in place for these actors that they have a sort of almost same screening amount of time each episode or this sort of a thing, but the program could do with working on its structure, and maybe structuring it differently so that we do get the A and the B storyline and we're focused on them, and the other characters might be in the background or something like this, and the characters are front and centre, aside from the Harry stuff, front and centre in the B storyline, is then given to someone else in another episode and this sort of thing, and intertwine them as the series goes on. That's one a structure change that I would make to this show if I personally could. Now, the series has been picked up for season 3, which is fantastic. The writing was on the wall for a while because this show did take a decline at the beginning half of this season. I will admit that. The freshness had gone, but that's inevitable because when the series first came about, it felt fresh and different to anything that was on. When it came back for a season 2, that had gone because we'd had season 1, so that was inevitable. But anyway, let's talk about this episode here. Episode 13, Harry, a Parent.
I just felt my rear iris pucker and my testicles tighten. My taint remains unchanged.
Now, to sum it up, I could sum this episode up in a few words, right? And I will, and then I'll elaborate. But basically, Darcy, skiing, sheriff, the sheriff and Deputy Liv, sheriff leaving, Deputy Liv UFO, Ben and family, the new resort, Harry Astor, parent, children, and that's about it. That's about it. So let me elaborate on this sort of stuff. So this episode does focus heavily on Harry and Astor and what it means to be a parent, what it means to have family, what it means to care up and care down within a family dynamic. We have Astor finding a letter from her mother. If you've got to remember, her mother left her when she was young, didn't want nothing to do with her, and she goes with Harry and finds her mother. And her mother is this chain-smoking individual that just doesn't care, doesn't want her being there, looking at the clock and this sort of thing, answering phone calls, and it's very well written, and the emotional play does come across. You do feel for Astor and how she's been rejected as a parent, but it also highlights what Astor has done to her own daughter, because the grandmother, or Astor's mother, sees herself in Astor, and Astor's relationship with her daughter, because she rejected her daughter, shouldn't care. She shouldn't care about her daughter, or shouldn't even call her a daughter. And this is a mirroring of one another's, and it shows a difference in how they perceive parenting and the care that they have for their daughter. But this in turn also, after the Harry stuff of last episode with the Goliath storyline and Harry potentially being Goliath, or is Goliath, whatever way you want to look at it, and the baby alien being Harry's offspring, and Harry's thoughts towards the alien, and that he should care more for it and do more for it as opposed to want it just for the information and all this sort of a thing. You have that kind of a story element going on. The mayor himself and his wife, they're still sort of going at one another because of this new retreat that the mayor wants to build. The wife doesn't want to do it, the mayor does, and they're both at loggerheads, not in a nasty way or anything like that, but they're got both opposing viewpoints, and they, and that's another storyline within this. The sheriff, he's still looking at leaving the town, moving to somewhere new, and it turns out that he's afraid of committing and all this sort of stuff, and this is the relationship that he has with the other police officer that came into it, and Deputy Liv is trying to get him to see that there is a potential relationship there, also wanting him to stay in the town because she does like the sheriff, and the sheriff humours Deputy Liv to go and look at the area where she saw the UFO when she was a child, and all this sort of a thing going on. And then you got the Darcy storyline, and this is a continuation of storyline from previous episodes where Darcy is doing this skiing tournament, yes, but she wants drugs off of Harry to help her out and to with the knee issues that she have. I don't know whether this storyline, I was expecting this storyline to go into a little bit of maybe she's getting addicted to these drugs or something like that, but it didn't go that way. You do see stuff with her and her boyfriend Elliot, and I was half expecting Elliot to turn out to be one of the aliens in disguise. That didn't come to pass, but it looked like they were sort of edging that way when they had the meet-up. Whether that will happen further down the line, that'll be interesting to see. It just felt it was sort of edging that way. Did anyone else have that sort of a sense? It was the main scene where she introduced Elliot to all of her friends after skiing itself, and Harry was more background to it, so you didn't see his. You heard him say Elliot, but which is funny, E.T. But you didn't see the Harry actually connect with him, or do you know what I mean, have any exchange with him. So they might have done that. Now the episode does end because on a sort of a revelation, shall we say, as to who the alien race is that's on the planet Earth. The scene is played for laughs, so and at the same time it's meant to be somewhat foreboding. That being said, however, because it's played for laughs at the same time as you've got these two opposing you got these two what's the word I'm looking for? The ideas oppose one another essentially within this scene, because you've got the foreboding stuff and the threats related to the alien race, which, spoiler warning, I will say spoiler, so if you haven't seen it, you know, I've put spoiler warning up at the beginning anyway, so be aware of that. But it's grey aliens, the little, you know, grey aliens that we know from Area 51, you know, the Roswell crash and that sort of a thing.
My people don't. It's the Greys that have the ass fetish.
But you've got this exchange between Harry and this grey alien that beams down when everything's frozen, and it's played for comedic purposes. However, there's some threats within and some foreboding sort of story elements to come. So it kind of negates one another, which is a bit odd. That was an odd choice to do that. I mean, it was amusing in itself, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. But to have this sort of, you know, stay out of our way, we'll finish you and your friends, but at the same time, the comedic element to it just sort of like detracts and deflects one another. It's very strange indeed. But there we go. So, you know, this episode, Harry a Parent. Overall, I'll be honest, some of the storylines did bore me. The Darcy skiing stuff, I don't really care for it. I've got nothing, you know, no interest there. The Harry Astor stuff was fantastic, and it was well played out, I will say that. The Mayor stuff and the retreat, again, another storyline that just I don't really care for. But the Sheriff and Deputy Liv, I love the Sheriff in this show. I think he's fantastic. Give the geezer a spin-off show, you know, a police procedure with him. It would be fantastic. Deputy Liv, she plays off of him really well. I do like this stuff. So that stuff does work for me. Whenever the Sheriff shows up, it's, you know, to me, he's like probably his second best character within the show. Some fantastic lines. But how do you rank these characters? Let me know down below. Let me know if there's storylines that work for you or don't work for you. If there's characters in this show that do work for you or don't. Or are you invested in everything that goes on? Are you that far invested? I'd really be interested to know. So come over, leave a comment down below. Let's have a nice friendly discussion about it. Whether you like it, whether you dislike it. It doesn't matter whether you like it or you dislike it. You know, people have their own opinions. Art, you know, film is art is subjective. So, yeah, let me know down below. Hit the subscribe button, come join the channel, and I will be back in a week's time for the next episode as well, episode 14. Only a couple more left, 14, 15, 16. I believe it's 16 episodes for this season. Yeah, so it's coming close to the end. And it is ramping things up, which is fantastic. But let's talk about it, and I'll see you then. And I'll talk to you in the comments. Take care all, and goodbye.
Hey, you cannot give up on your mission. You need to help us. Our people depend on... Oh, my God, are you high?